maybe start with some personal background. Explain how you got into this role and your personal history with cannabis, while Joey and I sit here and smoke weed. Smoke weed every day. And today is March 2nd, 2022. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. We got a really fun show lined up for you tonight. Got a very exciting guest tonight that Joey hooked up. Lillyanne Ternahan. Is that what I'm saying? Ternahan. Founder of Delaware Cannabis Patients Coalition, organizer of the protests against corporate cannabis, aka the Columbia Care Rally. So it's going to be a fun interview. Joey's going to join us for this, getting kind of caught up on the last legal fronts of the war on cannabis. Like they're still fighting this one. They're still what? Yeah. Well, there's a lot of corporate bullshit. There's a lot of back and forth with the regulations. There's like, as we've seen, where I've lived through the beginning of the end of the war on drugs in California and Arizona. There's definitely a lot of finagling. And I gotta say, for the people who we have a friend who's in jail right now. I don't know if he wants us talking about his case, but he was a dispensary owner in Washington State. And given the state of cannabis regulation, to be any kind of legally involved with the industry, sort of manager, institution, whatever, you got to love government paperwork. Like, what is the service that a cannabis store owner is providing? It's not running a cannabis store. It's maintaining the legal framework and beating back government to do that. And so the people who are attracted to that, the people at this point who have survived in that industry, aren't the activists. At least there are a few of them left. We're going to get into this again. Joey's had some cases with some great store owners, things like that. We're going to go over some of the headlines, tell you the story of the Cuck of Kiev. The Cuck of Kiev? Yeah. Joey knows what I'm talking about. But with that, let's get Joey and Jim on screen here, shall we? Should we smoke some weed? You guys want to smoke some weed? Every day. Good hit, everybody. Good hit. Good
Solid.
How you doing? Hit us with some producer notes.
Yeah, before I go, don't forget, everybody, t.me/Adam versus Man. That's how you can keep up with everything going on with the show. It's free. It's public. Everybody's welcome to join. We're trying to rack it up to what's the current population of the world? 8 billion. That's how many people we want on t.me/Adam versus Man. Next, financially, you can support us. Patreon.com/Adam versus Man. Anywhere from $1 a month to $50 a month, so check those packages out. Homefrontbattlebuddies.org is always a website worth supporting, trying to end the need for combat veterans in the first place and all this wonderful war propaganda we get to cover tonight. We put an end to it.
Yeah, so about that's a perfect transition. Jim, why don't you stick with us at least until the wheels fall off or our guest gets here. Awesome. Well, I do want to do one more segment.
We'll show up early.
All right,
we're not late.
All right, wait. Which guest? It's Kellyanne, because we have two guests. We had a little who knows what with the timing. Kellyanne, that's awesome. Okay. Lillyanne. Sorry, but no. So Lillyanne, we're gonna do one little segment here before we get to Colette again. Could you have had your mushrooms?
Mushroom clouds on mushrooms.
Okay. One of the memes I saw this week was like bad mushrooms, good mushrooms. It was nuclear cloud.
I've seen a literal mushroom cloud on LSD in Flab City because there's a bombing range out there, and every now and then.
Yeah, mushroom cloud doesn't necessarily mean nuke. A lot of small explosives produce the same phenomenon.
But what's funny is you think it would ruin your trip. No, it was fucking hilarious. It was just the funniest thing that I saw.
Because you knew it was kind of safe.
Yeah.
You knew it was ugly militarism. You knew it was dangerous, but it was safe for you right then. It was just like basically
you're
stupid, expensive fireworks.
I'm here high.
Yeah, right. But Jim, just replace yourself with Lillyanne.
I'll take my ugly mug off, put a much prettier face in my place.
Wherever you want to put her on the screen is fine.
You're beautiful.
But yeah. All right. Are you there? Excellent.
Hi,
Hey,
thanks for having me on.
you're very welcome. Thank you for the work that you are currently doing. I'm going to read your introduction just to set the stage here before we jump into this. Lillyanne Ternahan is the founder of Delaware Cannabis Patients Coalition and organizer of the protests against corporate cannabis, aka the Columbia Care Rally. She says Columbia Care, a multi-million-dollar cannabis operation, is abusing patients for profit. Shocking. That happens in America. And have begun to actively lobby against Delaware's legalization bill due to the language not granting them priority in the recreational market, and she refuses to accept this for her community. Lillyanne, thank you for joining us. If you don't mind, maybe start with some personal background. Explain how you got into this role and your personal history with cannabis, while Joey and I sit here and smoke weed.
Okay. All right. Well, to start off, I grew up here on the Eastern Shore. At a fairly young age, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. So then I started, well, after numerous pharmaceuticals being unsuccessful, I ultimately switched to medical cannabis, and then it just became solely medical cannabis. And throughout my time as a patient, I noticed numerous issues with the program here in Delaware, and so I wanted to voice my thoughts about that, and then found out that other patients felt the same way. But what I really noticed is that, like, I have the ability, as where some patients' conditions are much more severe, they don't have the ability to make it out of the house to lobby and meet with their legislators or to meet with other patients. So they're really limited. So I took this opportunity that I have to really voice the concerns in the medical cannabis community, through the help of other agencies here in Delaware, that have been very supportive, such as Delaware Normal and the Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network. So that's really how I got started out. And then through other measures, I became passionate about recreational adult use legalization. And so we really started pushing for that. And that's why I'm here now. I actually developed a passion for law and just finished up an undergraduate in legal studies. And then I'm going to further that so I can hopefully take, my work for cannabis reform to the next level.
Oh, so you're going to be one of those very rare, like, do-gooder lawyers that all the other lawyers hate, huh?
Essentially, yes. But there's a lot of do-gooder lawyers here in Delaware, that work for criminal justice reform and cannabis reform as well. So they've really inspired me.
So Delaware, the only thing I know about Delaware is that we should hate you for repeatedly sending Joe Biden to the U.S. Senate.
And because they don't pay taxes. No state taxes. I'm jealous.
Taxes here are great. No taxes for anything at all. So that's awesome. I grew up in Maryland, so it was 6% across the board. Yeah, it's like a completely different world just driving 15 minutes across the border. But right now we do have a current bill in the Delaware House. We have HB 305 that's looking to legalize adult use, recreational adult use cannabis. But our primary issue is Columbia Care here within the past few weeks has quietly kind of planned this sneak attack. They've hired lobbyists that have connections here in Delaware. So they're actively lobbying our lawmakers, which I feel is absolutely disgusting, considering that this entire movement has been a volunteer effort, grassroots, born here in Delaware, fought by Delawareans. And now there's this multi-million-dollar corporation that operates in numerous states. I believe it's actually 18 that they operate in recreationally and medicinally.
and they're just like stepping in, trying to. So Columbia Cares, they run dispensaries and grow operations. Just to back up for the audience and be clear, is that their role in this industry?
Yes, they run all the way across the board. They manufacture and they cultivate, manufacture, and then they also run the dispensaries as well. So they hold a monopoly here in Delaware. The only thing that's really protecting us is that we do have a third party testing facility, but there are some questionable people involved with that, and a lot of hidden information that won't be divulged to patients to clarify, what connections are there. It's such a small state. Everybody knows everybody. And if you're not going to be transparent with who's running the testing facility, then clearly to me, that feels that there's some form of conflict.
Yeah, isn't that normally public knowledge? The owners of corporations and businesses, it's public record, isn't it?
This is very
typically it is, but there are ways around that. The corporations use hiring legal entities, register agents, people to carry out their business not under their name.
So we've got this big entity in the cannabis industry that is nationwide, for lack of a better term, considering the
yes, any state that legalizes, they're going to pop up, and that's what's happened here. But see, the issue here is Delaware is trying to not make the same mistakes that other states have made. So there's social equity and micro business language within the bill, which will grant opportunities to Delaware entrepreneurs, and most importantly, those impacted by the war on cannabis. And that's extremely vital, within legalization, is to provide access to those who have fought for cannabis reform before, it was cool. But now, everybody from, you have your individuals, your tie-dye hippies, you have people of color, and you have all these people that have fought for legalization, but are, these corporations, you just have a bunch of people in suits and ties and fancy clothing driving Teslas. And, those aren't the people that were out here risking their lives and their freedom for cannabis reform. And I think it's just disgusting that they come in and they, steal it from the people that have been there since day one, or, the children or grandchildren of those that have been impacted.
A lot of the activists who I've had the honor of knowing in the space have dabbled in various forms of like corporate license, legal, medical, recreational, whatever, and they just get kind of pushed out of it because they get, you know what, we're competing with assholes who just are better at fighting for, legislative advantages and filling out corporate paperwork and working the bureaucracy to their advantage.
So money.
No, most definitely, it takes a lot of money for the application process. But see, and that's exactly what Columbia Care wants is, they're trying, their PR moves. Oh yeah, we're cool with legalization. It's great, but they're not cool with legalization. They don't support it unless it provides them priority. They want to cut line in front of, the Delaware entrepreneurs, that are going to be accessing the social equity and micro business licensing. And as we've seen here in Delaware and other states, they set the market, they set the market prices, and they don't want to have the competition.
That's terrible. And you plan a rally around this, right? Is that you're kind of taking that role of organizing the people? What's going on with that rally? I love a good rally. I'm glad. Good maskless rally too. Those are fun.
Pass joints on judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this Saturday, March 5th at 10:30 a.m., we're going to be out at Columbia Care's Rehoboth location, right there at the beach. It's going to be beautiful weather, and we're going to rally against corporate cannabis. And, we are going to show them that we don't agree with their measures to, impede everything that Delaware activists have been working towards. We've volunteered our time and have worked tirelessly towards the goal of legalization, and legalization benefiting those who have been impacted and that want to start up in the industry. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Stoner moment.
Happens.
Yeah, well, we want to get out there, make people aware, because they've been doing it very quietly. A lot of activists, it took them a moment to see what was going on. And then once word spread, we're trying to get it out there to the general public. We want our legislators to know that we do not stand for it. So I just urge all Delawareans to reach out and contact their legislators and inform them that, we do not support Columbia Care's efforts to change the language of the bill. We don't appreciate that they are lobbying our legislators. We are the ones that reside in this state, and they need to hear us out. So I just urge you to support, all Delawareans to support their legislator or contact their legislators in support of HB 305.
So is there any other particular, I have a couple questions about this rally. Is it, you're saying support 305 to defeat this other particular bill? And I assume it's a general call to.
There is no other bill. Columbia Care is trying to have the language changed to prioritize their desires. And if they don't have the language changed, they want the bill to die.
Well, and Delaware is small. There's less than 1 million population in the entire state. There's more people living in Phoenix than live in Delaware. And if you get the word out that this dispensary is doing that, this is kind of a place where you could really have an impact and get people to stop walking in their doors and stop putting up with their shit. And then they just collapse because the people make it so.
Well, a majority of Delawareans support legalization, well over 60%. And if those Delawareans contacted, and that's adult Delawareans, those Delawareans contacted their legislators. Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
Say Delawarean a few more times, please.
Delaware.
I got you. Good. Rolled off the tongue.
People not from Delaware don't hear the word Delawarean
a lot
very often.
It's the citizens of Delaware.
It's certainly not with an authentic Delaware accent. No, so there's.
No, I'm actually from Maryland. I'm from the Eastern Shore, so not too far from Delaware. I've lived here for 7 years now. I moved right out of high school, and I love it.
Nice. Well, in terms of the rally itself, do you expect people to be comfortable smoking cannabis outside in public with law enforcement present? What do you tell us about sort of the texture and the nature of the rally itself in those terms?
The rally itself is peaceful. We have a planned itinerary with speakers. We don't encourage civil disobedience. We like to be polite and respectful to the public, and anywhere that cannabis is legalized, it's, still a civil violation to smoke in public, which can result in a fine. But since it's not recreational yet, we encourage respect, to our law enforcement. We don't want to go out there and cause, a scene. We want to, and it's worked so far.
Yeah.
It's not a smoke-in.
It's unfortunate that's
you guys should have a smoke-in if it gets to that point. I would just.
Yeah, they're always, we like to. We are still cannabis consumers. We just, there's a time and place for that, and we like to be respectful.
Wait, there's a time and a place to not Be high?
Yeah.
I was unaware of such a thing. Or maybe I used to know about it, but then I
Cruise
forgot.
ships. You can't be
Cruise
high on
ships.
cruise ships. You can't get
Why
weed.
not?
You can't get weed on cruise.
Take it with you.
It's terrible.
Drone
And
delivery?
you get arrested in international waters, like
Oh, you
yeah,
don't.
that's dangerous. And certain countries you travel to,
yeah.
you have to be super careful, just because it varies, like the penalties.
Yeah, no,
They'll rob you.
about that. It's tempting in the United States to be like, well, weed is mostly practically legal for most Americans, but there's still a lot of bullshit like what we're seeing in Delaware in the industry, like in every state. I mean, there's no state where we can be like, yeah, there's a great free market that's,
DC.
community.
DC.
They still have to pull all sorts of
It's
bullshit.
not a state. No, they don't.
Oh,
They just
okay,
have
it's
to
no
use
state.
the right
Well, actually,
language.
there's no
They don't have to
state.
pull any bullshit. It's incredible. I
Do they
would.
pay taxes on it? They get licenses?
Yes, because they have business licenses
So that's a problem. And that's
for selling lighters.
I want to point out
Yeah,
that
no, DC has a really laid back, almost like exchange program, and it's a fun, like culture, but it's still, you have your issues with it. There's not consistency, or you run the issue of counterfeit products.
it's not fully developed. It's not what we like even in Arizona enjoy or California, with recreational dispensaries
Yeah,
that are
you
well-developed businesses.
Somebody coming through
But-
town isn't going to find it to, have an easy time finding weed.
Yeah, exactly. See, I think the way to approach, the industry is small craft businesses, the way that, growing was done back in the day, like a farm stand. Cannabis is it's the fruiting body of the plant. And, just are you familiar with like craft breweries in the same similar manner, just small, cared for plants, grown with love. I know that sounds corny, but I think that's what it should be. You should have a passion for it, and you should love what you do.
I'm pretty sure, not to be the economics nerd in the conversation, but Lillyanne, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a spectrum of sources in a market for cannabis. They're going to be, see what what I want. I want all the local growers to show up on a map on my phone with a number on them that is the minutes by which they, how far away they are from me by drone delivery, and I pay with crypto, and then a drone drops weed out of the sky into my hands. If it's got to be a little consolidated or industrialized to produce that convenience, I'm okay with that. There are going to be some people who want the Walmart of cannabis. There are going to be some people who want, the bullshit cheapest, whatever. But we know that when we get anywhere near that point, I mean, we're already, and I want to transition to make one other point with this, but we're already at the point where Joey and I buy in bulk. We're able to get buying by the pound. We're able to get top shelf cannabis for $33 an ounce. Like, that's pretty incredible considering how cheap it is then to enjoy it, even if you're a heavy user. Even with as restricted as it is, as much as other countries are suffering under really brutal drug war regimes, we are on the verge of cannabis being plentiful and readily available to everyone on earth. And I mean on the verge as in the next 5 to 10 years, not immediately. But we're getting close to that, and we're closer than we've ever been in human history, and certainly since the start of the drug war. So do you
Definitely.
how do you see your efforts? I mean, it's almost, I mean, we can talk about like these fun big ideas and smoke pot on the air and how awesome it is to get high, but in a way, what you're saying, well, let's get into the verbiage of 305 and defend it against corporate lobbyists who are blah 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 blah. And it's like, this is some boring shit. You're already like way too technical. Like, why do I care? Do you see though that what you're doing is sort of chipping away at the last big remnants of the drug war that is preventing humanity from realizing not just the end of the war on cannabis, but on drugs entirely? And I mean, a new era of mental health and psychological enlightenment. That's why I say thank you for your work, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate them. Thank you for everything that you do. Really.
No, it's and I have to ask you, because I've sat with this existential crisis before. You work so hard as a cannabis activist to get it legal, and now you sit back and you feel like you've put it in the hands of big pharma or big tobacco, and it just absolutely wrenches your heart because you know you had something to do with that. But I really think that, I mean, at least for me and the hardworking activists that I know, like yourself, we're not going to stop. There's another battle to be had in what I say is just blatant discrimination against the industry. And once there's legalization, the way we want to see it, and you can go get Walmart anywhere, or go get weed like at the Walmart anywhere, anytime. People are going to be sitting back and going, wait a minute, how come I only need 20 grand to open a pizza shop, but I need 20 million to even get the things together to open? Of course, I'm exaggerating. But that's going to be a big deal. And it's going to be an easier fight to overcome. Do you?
I think the fight, we can make it actually narrower than that, because it's to make it legal to do what we did.
Yeah. You should be able to just buy, it should be licensed, no different than produce. I can sell tomatoes to my neighbor and not have the Fed in my backyard.
Why are you discriminating against growers and customers economically and financially, and imposing hardships on patients by saying that you need a licensed corporate intermediary in that sale? And so I think even in a world of specialization and varied grows, like that app idea, that there would be micro grows everywhere and you could have a huge variety available.
Like Uber weed, Uber weed.
Well, it would provide cannabis. See, a lot of patients, you know, have trouble affording their cannabis due to their various different ailments. You know, Social Security and disability does not, you know, it's not sustainable to buy out of pocket medicine. So, you know, I think we're going to see a push towards covering cannabis being covered by insurance, as well as, you know, more, if the laws were less stringent in the states that are already there, you know, aside from Delaware, you know, helping your neighbor with because not everybody's going to be a skilled grower. And that's, you know, that's the sad fact, is there's a lot of people that won't be able to provide their own medicine, even if the right legislation's passed. So, you know, it's really going to take, you know, everybody looking out for one another.
There might be dudes still locked up in jail who get cannabis for a headache, who are in jail for cannabis distribution charges. I hope we get them out first. But yeah, no, before we get to this comment, Joey, just one point here is that the main motivation for Joey and I to buy directly from a grower was to not be paying state taxes in Arizona. And it's sort of peaceful, quasi-legal tax evasion, but it's because we really do object morally, not just to the inefficiency by the coercive nature of the regulation, but to the things that governments go and do with that money.
You're taking my money and you're using it to lock up my friends for having too much weed on them, or for mushrooms, or for LSD. And it's like, I'm not.
Or because they didn't get the card that I got.
Yeah, I don't want to pay
obviously
for that.
We're past that in Arizona. But yeah, the next fight really is just free, you know, direct exchange between growers and consumers, and being able to do it by mail.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the comment, Joey?
Fina's saying aloha again. She said, I love weed and I love guns, and it's a shame that we have to choose. Could you imagine if we put the same requirements for purchasing a gun on the right to vote? And I think this is a good point, because that's what it's eventually going to come down to, is we all right here can say cannabis is a right, but the world doesn't understand that yet. And once they do, we're going to have some human rights issues in whatever legalization ends up looking like, that's terribly discriminated against. And I don't know, I guess just don't give up, even though it seems like you're helping, like you're creating the wrong progress. Maybe it's just the uncomfortable birthing pains. Is that a fair assessment? Growing pains.
I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. I think that there are flaws, and, you know, undoing the damage that's been done by cannabis prohibition is definitely a priority. You know, once legalization comes, there's a lot of organizations working towards legalization here in Delaware, and, you know, the next steps that come afterwards. So, that we just spoke about, as for, releasing those who are still currently serving sentences, expungements and pardons for those who, are currently facing the after effects of conviction.
So, my friend Ernest Hancock of Freedom's Phoenix here in Arizona once said about our former senator, may he rest in hell, John McCain, the warmonger and statist totalitarian.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, anyway, about John McCain, he said, actually, we're just going to have to wait for some people to die before we can be free. At some point, we can see this as a generational shift. But I take a much more positive view of this with cannabis. We don't have to wait for people to die. We just have to wait for them to get high. And there are a lot of people out there who are still backing up so many evils of the world because they don't have cannabis. They don't have peace. They don't have the relief. They don't have the presence of mind, all of the benefits that come with positive, healthy, deliberate, conscientious drug use. And cannabis is a major place where humanity is catching up. But I'd like to think that we're almost at critical mass, because it's not people like us who are going to smoke whether it's legal or not who need to be impacted to have this larger generational impact. It's the older generations. It's the guys who went to the military without ever smoking pot. It's the people who vote for Democrats and Republicans who are pro-drug war over and over and over again, expecting different results. It's for all the bureaucrats and the cops who think that that's living their best life, who need to step back and go, fuck no, I'm a human being. I'm capable of so much better. And I think there's a sort of psychological paradigm shift of critical mass that we're on the verge of with just cannabis legalization, and not necessarily legalization, but availability. Yeah, access. And I think we're on the verge of that beautiful point. So Lillyanne, again, thank you. I think what you're doing is critical in that bigger picture right now of getting us to that critical mass, even just when it comes to fighting for access in Delaware for 1 million citizens. But you're also setting an example for a lot of states across the United States where this is still a major battleground, and it affects even way more people than with just your work directly. And I hope for people who are watching from one of those states where there's work to do, at least this story and hopefully our attempt to put it in bigger context has motivated and inspired you to do the kind of work that Lillyanne is doing. So, dear, please take the last word.
All right. Thank you again. And I just want to urge anyone from Delaware. We strictly have voter initiative, meaning that we need you to contact your legislators and urge them to vote yes on HB 305 and speak out against what Columbia Care is doing, and let them know that you do not agree with a multi-state operator having priority in an industry that is supposed to be for the people.
Yes. Beautiful. Oh, great branding. I love it. Green with black and white. Very sharp. Yes. Great yard signs. Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, perfect with the state. Oh, it's like
I want a t-shirt. Where do I buy a t-shirt?
Totally.
The Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network does a fundraiser bi-yearly. So the next time that they do one, I will go ahead and share a link. And if there's yard signs available, I will post a link under this video.
A yard sign. I mean, not to put out. Obviously, it's irrelevant. I wanted a yard sign as an historical relic of your effort, and I want to buy one to support you. So I hope we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll attach a link and stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right. We have to transition to a slightly heavier topic right now.